WVEC-TV, plan.
Time for Hudson's Wave or two, and here we go.
This is Jeff McKay, ABC News.
Over 100 years and still going strong. That's Naval Station Norfolk. It first began operations in 1917. On its centennial in 2017, we showcased the history of the world's largest naval base with a half-hour special. In it, we hear from naval officers who led the installation through the decades. We also look at current-day operations, and we consider what the future holds. I had the pleasure to host a Century of Service Naval Station Norfolk then and now, and hope you enjoy this special presentation now.
Welcome to A Century of Service, Naval Station Norfolk, then and now.
Hello and welcome to Naval Station Norfolk. I'm Mike Gooding. This year, the world's largest naval base turns 100 years old. It dates all the way back to 1917 when the United States was first getting into World War I. Since then, Naval Station Norfolk has provided the ships and the sailors and the aircraft for every campaign and conflict America has fought, including the current fight with ISIS. Over the next half hour, my 13 News Now colleagues, Philip Townsend, Marcella Robertson, and Andre Sr. and I will take a look at the past, the present, and the future.
The relevance and the meaning of Naval Station Norfolk to the U.S. Navy and its history. I'm obviously very honored, very proud to be in this position today. So I really, the mission of the base, to support the fleet, the family, and the warfighter, I take it very serious, and it's really, like I said, it's really very humbling.
He is the 47th commanding officer of a place that has meant so much to so many people.
It's really, it's a pretty amazing the reach that Naval Station Norfolk has had over the years. I mean, when you look at the history, I mean, you can't go anywhere on this base without, touching a piece of the history.
It was World War I. President Woodrow Wilson endorsed the building of a naval operating base. Following a June 15, 1917 act of Congress, workers broke ground on July 4th of that same year, and construction began on the site of the 1907 Jamestown Exposition at Sewell's Point. 8 million cubic yards of mud was dredged to provide appropriate docking facilities. On October 12th, less than 4 months later, the 1st Regiment moved in, and NOB, as it was called then, became operational.
You would really be challenged to find someone in the Navy that does not have some link to Hampton Roads and the Naval Station Norfolk. I mean, young and old alike, people have fond memories of their service here at Naval Station Norfolk.
It is a hugely important place. It is the largest naval installation in the world. And it is the home of the East Coast Fleet. I mean, we're stationed up and down the East Coast. But it is the heart and soul of that part of our Navy that deploys from the East Coast.
Retired Admiral Bill Gortney knows all about the base and its history. From 2012 to 2014, he served as commanding officer of U.S. Fleet Forces Command, based at Naval Station Norfolk. He's a booster of the base now as a member of the Navy League of Hampton Roads.
And I'm a history major. And quite frankly, you're not going to know where you're going to go in the future unless you knew where you came from in the past. So I'm a firm believer in understanding our history and the rich heritage of our history, of our great nation, and then of our naval forces that man, train, and equip and prepare to go fight and win our nation's wars and sustain the peace in those few years that it's peaceful.
There were some dark days, like when the attack on the USS Cole happened, and 9/11. Retired Captain Joe Bouchard was commanding officer from 2000 until 2003, right when both of those tragic milestones took place.
There was an increased interest in what the military calls force protection, counterterrorism.
Before that, the base was pretty vulnerable.
The water around the piers wasn't even closed to the public. It was not a security zone until after 9/11. But the whole base was wide open.
Eventually, needed security changes were made. Now, more than a decade and a half later, the base is far more secure. And as for the future, Bouchard and the others believe it is bright.
The base is going to be just as important over the next 100 years as it has been during the last 100 years.
There is no place else quite like operating out of here, out of the Tidewater area. if you look at it. And God is not creating any more waterfront.
But as we look to the future, I think I'm excited because as you look at the changes that the Navy has technology-wise with our ships, we're still going to be in the business of deploying ships globally. So I'm excited as we look ahead.
Your adrenaline's pumping, and it's just a really exhilarating feeling. It's really hard to put into words.
But before you can see them in action,
lots of visual contact.
You have to see where it all begins.
We can use Master Blaster.
The Daily Brief for Helicopter Sea Combat Squadron 5. Today, the squadron will be working with Special Operations, the EOD unit you may have seen in the movie The Hurt Locker.
It's probably the most fun mission we do, working with the SEALs and the EOD guys.
Lieutenant Cole Fahey, pilot.
What don't I like about my job?
And Crew Chief Petty Officer First Class Darren Brown.
Things are really dynamic, and things are always changing.
They make up part of today's team of 4 in one of the Navy's finest helicopter units. The squadron's primary objective is search and rescue and providing anti-surface warfare while at sea.
I think that my job is probably the best enlisted job in the military because I get to fly for one, and I'm always working with different assets, different branches, and always seeing new and different things.
For this mission, they take off from Naval Station Norfolk.
I'm definitely proud to be here. I'm proud to be a part of the Navy's team.
And end up here at Fort Story. They're meeting up with their Special Ops unit.
We'll stand back up, we'll load them up into our helicopter and drop ropes out the side of the helicopter, and then they'll slide down the ropes.
The exercises are fast, they're repetitive, and that's the point. Getting it right the first time. It's truly the difference between life or death when they leave these training grounds.
They're putting their life in your hands, and you're putting your life in their hands.
And tomorrow, Cole and Darren will be back in the sky.
It never gets stagnant.
This is a day in the life of HSC 5.
I can't imagine doing anything else.
With the Night Dippers at Naval Station Norfolk, I'm Philip Townsend, 13 News Now.
See more of the history of Naval Station Norfolk after the break.
This is Naval Station Norfolk. It is the largest naval base in the entire world. It's home to dozens and dozens of military ships. But have you ever thought about what it takes to move those ships and get them where they need to be and when? We wanted to give you a closer look at exactly how it's done. Day in and day out,
Norfolk Control.
these sailors are hard at work.
Bravo boat, Norfolk Border Control.
Captain, good morning again.
68 military ships call Naval Station Norfolk home. Everything from destroyers to carriers. And each ship has a mission.
Monterey's inbound.
Inside this small tower that overlooks the piers,
They're manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
that's where you'll find tower watch standers.
PSB will be opening shortly.
They're in charge of moving the ships, making sure they're exactly where they need to be.
Control. The tower watchstanders, their job is to be the eyes and ears of the waterfront.
Yep, head bell.
But moving these massive vessels is no easy feat.
It's like a game of Tetris.
Except this game involves billion-dollar ships.
Pier 5, berth 1.
And a lot more manpower.
Captain Bob, permission to leave.
It all starts with scheduling, figuring out which ships need to leave port and which ones are coming home.
Captain, good morning again.
On any given day, our average busy day is about 10 to 13 moves, ships getting in and out.
The watchstanders have a lot on their plate. They track commercial ships, small boats, barges, and even divers on port.
The job of the tower watchstander is to ensure that the divers and the small boats and the ships and the tugboats never meet each other unintentionally.
Commence diving operations, Pier 10, berth 6.
Without their okay, nothing is moving anywhere.
As soon as they're open, you have permission to leave.
The sailors in the tower are the eyes in the sky, but the dock masters,
verifying no small boats,
are the eyes on the ground.
When you pull that line, make sure you walk it down.
And their role
We're in the clear.
is just as important.
We're really their eyes, 15, and guiding them to where they need to go. 200 foot's marked.
They're the ones actually walking the ships in.
200, okay.
We're talking with tower and scheduling to make sure that we put the ship exactly where it needs to be.
They're in constant communication
100 feet, sir.
100.
start with people called pilots. They are the ones that board the ship as it's coming in, navigating it right back to its pier.
50 feet.
They make sure every sailor on every ship,
Yeah, just grab that side and start walking.
coming in or out, stays safe.
If you're good there, sir, we can work with it.
And when you're in charge of moving ships as big as these,
There's very little room for error.
for the people responsible for moving these ships, it's all about trust.
Without all of us working as a group, we wouldn't be able to do it.
It's a job that many people may not even know exists, but it's one they're proud to do.
Norfolk's skyline is changing.
That's billions of dollars to our economy right there. Billions of dollars.
For Brian Stevens, president and CEO of the Hampton Roads Chamber, it means construction and service industry jobs, many for the families of those employed at Naval Station Norfolk. Along with these jobs, attention turns to getting people to and from work.
What's the future of light rail in Norfolk? What's the future of our road system? What about high-speed rail coming down from the Northeast? What about our air service?
Our Navy is now the smallest it's been since, believe it or not, World War I. Don't worry. Going to soon be the largest it's been. Don't worry.
President Donald Trump's plan to increase military spending by $54 billion and increase the Navy fleet from 275 to at least 350 ships could feed the Hampton Roads economy at a rapid pace.
We'd see a rise in those stock prices, and that would be reflected in green numbers on the board. You would also see those sailors go off base, rent housing, buy automobiles and motorcycles, spend at grocery stores.
But a threat looms, says Robert McNabb, an economics professor at Old Dominion University's Strome College of Business.
We need to be vigilant and to be prepared as a region to fend off any attempts to close bases here.
He's talking about base realignment and closure, or BRAC, which led to the 2011 closure of Fort Monroe in Hampton.
As we lose ships out of here, what you end up doing in regards to the naval station and in regards to the piers and all the infrastructure that's built in for the Navy is that some of that may go unutilized. Some of this back here may go unutilized.
Bill Crow of the Virginia Ship Repair Association represents 240 companies in Virginia. In Hampton Roads alone, they employ 40,000 people. Between those numbers and the 70,000 plus who work at Naval Station Norfolk and everyone else, traffic can be a nightmare. And solving it can sometimes seem as slow as the bumper-to-bumper traffic heading into the base every morning.
We got a pretty good idea of what commuters were experiencing.
The Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization gleaned that information from a survey of commuters. It found that it takes the average base commuter 45 minutes to get to work, but it only takes 24 minutes for the rest of us to get to work. So the question, how do you bring that 45-minute commute time down?
A 564 is the big one.
An expansion project wouldn't be complete until December of 2018. Currently, there's a $125 a month reimbursement for using mass transit. But the survey found 69% of respondents had no idea the program existed. Would that surprise you to hear that a lot of these people didn't know about these benefits?
Yes and no.
The planning organization is working with the Navy in a study to expand light rail to the base, and they're trying to figure out right now the best route to get light rail there. We are still 45 years away from 2062, when the Hanna-Barbera animated family, the Jetsons, zipped around in their flying car. But there is another emerging technology that is much closer to reality.
We're seeing automated vehicles.
Drivers will receive warnings that inform them of potential hazards.
It could reduce headways, that could it could increase safety, it could increase capacity on the roadways.
Increase capacity for new jobs, a high-tech solution to a growing problem that's long dogged drivers across Hampton Roads.
We're trying to get a handle on how that could change the game.
The Navy has both a tradition and a future, and we look with pride and confidence in both directions. So said then Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Arleigh Burke. The same could be said for Naval Station Norfolk. We decided to ask some local noted historians to take a look back and ahead.
Well, I remember when it was a boot camp.
ODU historian and former Congressman Bill Whitehurst has a Naval Station Norfolk story of his own.
But the funniest thing is that in 1941, they were building a naval supply center, and I was 16 years old, and I went down and got a job as a carpenter's helper. and I was paid $5 a day to work 5 days a week.
Years later, as a member of the House Armed Services Committee, Whitehurst did what he could to steer federal dollars back into the base. He says the installation has played a pivotal role in the American story, and it is a vital piece of the fabric which makes up Hampton Roads.
They're really good citizens. They pay their taxes, they obey the laws, and it's nice to have them here. And they add something else. They add a cosmopolitan quality, I think.
To me, when you write, it's all about the faces. It's all about the people that those stories that make that legacy tick.
Author Amy Yarsinski wrote a book calling the base and Hampton Roads the Navy capital of the world.
It's that legacy of service, the service above self, and the service that we've provided from this particular point on the East Coast that is more extraordinary than what I've seen come out of many other places that I've covered.
I think it's fair to say that the great conflicts of the 20th century transformed Norfolk forever. And really, the installation that tells the story better than any other is the Naval Station Norfolk, World War I, World War II, the Cold War, right up to today.
It's a story that Joe Judge never gets tired of telling to the 120,000 people who every year visit the Hampton Roads Naval Museum, where he is curator.
The story of Naval Station Norfolk is the men and women who work there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, supporting the fleet, and that they've done so for 100 years through every major conflict that our country has faced.
You're watching A Century of Service, Naval Station Norfolk, then and now.
Naval Station Norfolk is also home to a fleet of fixed-wing aircraft. One of the most well-known is the E-2C Hawkeye. And at VAW 120, they're responsible for training the next generation of pilots and crew members. Up in the sky with the Greyhawks of VAW 120.
Got the idea in my head, ran with it, never let go.
Getting ready to go fly.
Their day starts with the morning brief.
We'll just take it as it comes, and we can be helpful if we are.
Then it's time to gear up.
Kind of when the helmet comes on, kind of got to put the rest of the stuff out of your mind.
But that's a bit harder today for instructor pilot Mike Lane.
Yeah, my wife is actually past her due date right now, so kind of waiting for the call any second now.
Luckily, he and his crewmates aren't going far. Lane, along with instructor pilot Tim Steiner and Naval Flight Officer Becky Zasia, are running drills above their home base here at Naval Station Norfolk.
It's something I've always felt drawn to.
The team is a training unit. Their main objective is to prepare new pilots and crew members in the E-2C Hawkeye and the C-2 Greyhound. The aircraft provide airborne early warning. They are the Navy's eyes in the sky.
Look ahead to see what's coming to protect the Carrier Strike Group.
It's a fusion that I've never experienced anywhere else, and it's great. It's what makes me love coming to work every day.
If this were football, Steiner says the squadron would be the offensive coordinators.
Everyone's doing their own little piece to make a big thing happen.
A small part of a big team.
It's great to be a part of something that's been around for 100 years, especially in this area. I know how much military is a part of this area.
This is a day in the life of VAW 120.
Blessed you are to have such an awesome job.
For a captain of a ship, there's no such thing as a bad day at sea.
I've been sailing since I could walk.
Pete Bailey is no stranger to the waterways around Hampton Roads. He's been captain of the Tracy Moran for 17 years.
Lorette from the Tracy Moran 13.
Yeah, Lorette, stand by.
Good morning. You down South Wall?
Pete and his crew are getting ready for another day on the water.
Mark, you read me? Yeah, I'm on my line.
They run one of 7 tugboats out of Naval Station Norfolk.
Start my generator up. I've got a push button. Here we go.
The tugs are really the ones doing all the work because the military ships are too big to get in and out of the piers on their own.
It's kind of like a band.
If a ship is coming back from being underway, the tugboats actually bring people called pilots out to the ship once it gets close to base. The tugs can get close enough that they can actually climb from one ship to another. The pilots take over control of the ship from the captain, and from there, it's nothing but trust and teamwork to get the ship docked.
You have the band conductor, who's the pilot, and then you have all the instruments, which is the tugboat, to get the ship safely either into the pier or out into the river to go out to sea.
The pilot gives all the instructions, how hard the tug should push, where to be, and how fast they should move. These tugboats are small, but powerful enough to get these vessels to exactly where they need to be.
You're clear of everything back here, Mike.
Then it's on to the next one.
Yeah, I'm here. So I just report in and await.
In this case, the Kearsarge. The assault ship is so big it needs 4 tugboats to help get it underway.
The Wendy is out at the end of the pier, waiting to pick up the starboard bow. The Surrey is on the port bow, and they're putting a line up now. And that is the Marcy right there.
The tugs maneuver, push, and pull until the ship is in the right position to go off on its own.
It's being confident in your ability to handle everything at once. It does take a certain amount of calmness and control and ability to handle the myriad of things that are going on.
Once everything is where it needs to be, it's time to go home.
It's the sense of accomplishment after every job is done. Now, either the sailors are safely at the dock and they can go home, the ship is safely out to sea to do its mission.
So these captains and their crew may not wear a traditional military uniform.
That's why we're here, to help the Navy run their show.
But they're still doing their part to serve their country.
If the military is the tie that binds Naval Station Norfolk to the surrounding cities, it will be the rising tide that breaks us apart.
So we know, based upon measurement, that it's been rising.
ODU professor Ray Toll has made it his work to show the threat of sea level rise on the base and surrounding cities.
You had an iPhone 5, this is a 6. Every 10 years it's been going up by this much, and every 20 years this much.
Here at the lowest point on Patrol Road, the main fence was reinforced with a second fence. Take a look. You see these black bars along the spacing here. What was happening was the floodwaters were coming in, pushing debris against the main fence on the outside right here, knocking it over, which essentially creates a security breach right here on base.
We'd see a rise in those stock prices, and that would be reflected in green numbers on the board.
The stock market and local businesses in Hampton Roads would also be affected by a threat to the installation, says an expert.
So last year was the first year that the Navy in the Hampton Roads area had a direct economic impact of greater than $10 billion. TOD activity accounts for about 20% of economic activity in Hampton Roads.
There are signs that things are getting worse on the base. Take a look at that body of water across the road. It hasn't rained here in weeks, yet that body of water still remains. And if we do see a hard rain in this area, you can expect all the floodwaters to rush over this road, cutting off 2 sides of the space. This double-decker pier was installed at the base to deal with sea level rise, but it has limitations. When the water rises, vehicles can no longer drive down the lower pathway, which can in turn delay preps made to a ship before its next mission.
American ships will sail the seas.
While President Donald Trump trumpets a larger Navy, he does not concede to climate change. And that means getting federal help will be difficult. So, Toll is trying a different approach.
When you flip this thing a little bit,
he is part of a group that convened an intergovernmental pilot project.
Control copy.
The blueprint urges a partnership between the base, the cities of Hampton Road, and the federal government. But instead of emphasizing the term sea level rise, he's selling the concept as infrastructure spending. It's an effort to grab part of President Trump's $1 trillion plan to upgrade America's roads, airports, and rail lines.
They can be building blocks from a regional to regional approach across the country.
Only time will tell if Toll's plan will work, but with evidence of sea level rise clearly visible throughout Naval Station Norfolk, it is a race against the clock to protect its future.
We hope that the new administration will see that these recommendations are worthy of the taxpayer.
100 years. For a full century now, Naval Station Norfolk has served the nation and served it well. But in many ways, this is just a beginning, and there no doubt will be many decades of service yet to come. And we here in Hampton Roads will get a front row seat. Lucky us. I'm Mike Gooding. Thanks for joining us.
This has been a century of service. Naval Station Norfolk, then and now.